Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, we are kicking off a brand new tips and tricks series where I will provide some tips and tricks. Okay, so I lack some basic creativity when it comes to titles. Let's try to look past this and dive into our topic today, which is landing the Mark II on the Kosatka without adding to the profit margin of Mars Mutual, i.e. destroying your Mark II by having it roll off your sub every 5 minutes. That's right. In today's tips and tricks, we'll be covering the delicate issue of landing your Mark II on the Kosatka sub. Alright, before we get started, as always, make sure to click the subscribe button to continue watching more exciting tutorials. And remember, click the thumbs up button if you find this video the least bit helpful in assisting you on your journey to becoming a very wealthy GTA professional. Okay guys, as you saw at the beginning of this video, there's a reason why parking your Mark II on the sub is such a delicate task. No matter where you park this dang thing, it's always going to move. Why? It's a submarine, folks. Bobbing around in the middle of the ocean? It's not rocket science. Of course you can't park anything on this thing. However, there are some tips and tricks to help you avoid watching your Mark II go for a swim. Okay, gonna push pause for a moment. We need to talk about two important items before we continue. Number one, this is not a permanent parking lot trick we're trying to do here, people. This is meant as a very temporary parking solution, meaning don't park your Mark II and then go into the sub and hang out with Pavel for an hour. If you do this, you will lose your Mark II. The whole point of this method is for individuals working the MKII setups, meaning you park the Mark II, head for the entrance, go to the control panel and select the next setup mission, and then leave. You should only be spending 1 to 2 minutes max. That's it. If you're planning on spending more time in the sub, return vehicle to storage. Number two, there are other videos out there telling you the best method for parking your Mark II on the Kosatka is to navigate the sub inland and wedge it against the beach. The reasoning behind this is that it'll prevent the sub from bobbing around and therefore limiting the movement of the Mark II. Between me, you, and the fence post, this is just a waste of time. You do not need to do this. If you follow my tips and tricks in this video, you'll be able to complete all the setup missions without moving the sub at all. Alright, tip number one. There's really only two convenient locations to park the Mark II. The first and most desired is at the front, where we're at now. Because of its proximity to the entrance and the control panel, many of you will want to park here. But, as you saw at the beginning of this video, and as you're seeing here now, this is also the most volatile. Given time, the Mark II is going to move and, most likely, fall off the sub. So, first tip. If you're going to park here, always park directly under the two white painted squares. The small square painted inside the bigger square, like you see here. This will be your target. What you want to do is just hover over it like I do here, and then get off. If you've used the Mark II for a while, you'll know the difference between a well-planted landing and one that leans a little. Obviously, you'll want to make sure it's of the well-planted variety before walking away. If you get off and notice the Mark II leaning a little, just get back on and readjust. What you're seeing here is normal. The Mark II will move, but it's a slow move, meaning you'll have plenty of time to get into the sub to initiate the next setup mission and leave before this thing drops into the abyss. So again, if you're landing at the front, make sure it's over the two squares, get off, make sure it's stable, and then go. Alright, tip number two. If you still feel uneasy about landing in the front, don't worry. There's another location that's a lot more forgiving. This is the area I like to call the landing strip of the Kosatka. This is the widest and flattest part of the sub. For those of you who don't know, if you purchase the Sparrow, which is one of the sub's moonpool vehicles, this is the area where it lands and takes off. Now, you're probably looking at this saying, well, this is perfect. Mark II isn't even moving. And in this particular instance, you're probably right. For some reason, it looks like this thing isn't moving at all. But trust me, if you park here, it is going to move. Just slower. So it buys you a little more time inside the sub if you need it. Okay, you're probably thinking to yourself right about now, this seems like a perfect area to park, but it's too far from the control panel entrance. And to those people I say, yes, you are correct. But there are some tips and tricks to get to and from this area quickly. If you're heading to the entrance, simply run along the side of the sub like I'm doing here now, and you're good to go. If you're returning to the Mark II, you don't need to jump off and swim to the back of the sub. This will take way too long. Simply run along the edge like I'm doing here, and when you get to the back of the sub where the bottom starts to widen out more, simply run and jump, and your player will eventually be able to grab onto the top of the sub and pull himself or herself up. Then, just a short, refreshing, wind-in-your-hair sprint to get to your Mark II. And that's it. If you're using the Mark II for your setups, which I highly recommend, you will want to park in either of these two locations. Again, you don't need to waste time and move the sub inland. You're only parking here to get into the sub, launch your next setup mission, and leave. Don't be wandering around hoping to find Pavel's secret stash of Navy wine. If you're planning on spending more time in the sub, just return your vehicle to storage. On that note, if you're a newbie and you find yourself stranded, there is a way to get to and from the sub if you have no Moonpool vehicles. You simply go to your phone, like I did there, and request your free dinghy. Hey, it's not the most flashiest transportation mode, but it does beat swimming. And that's it, folks. Some very straightforward and easy parking tips to help you utilize the Mark II while completing the setups for the Caio Perico. Remember, this is just short-term parking solutions. Simply use the methods I've shown here and you'll be knocking out the Caio setups in record time. So that's it, my friends. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Click on the like button and make sure to subscribe. Until next time, be happy, be well, be safe, be mighty, be the one. Oh, Maestro!